All right, Willow. So this video took a bit more time because I had to kind of go back retroactively, gather the footage. Unfortunately, I don't always have a camera out recording, and sometimes things would just happen. Um, you know, uh, I could walk into a room and there's no trigger, and then I'm in the room for a few hours and I stand up and then there's a really big explosion. And unfortunately for our security camera in our activity room, we only have one that points that way. We don't have one that points this way because when we initially bought the space, that middle room wasn't intended to be the room that it is now, the activity room, which where like everything happens now. So we have to put in another camera so we can get both perspectives. But just to run through the history of Willow and I, because I was just looking right now, and it looks like you joined us back in December of 22. And I've never handled Willow for a very long time until I think it was summer of last year. So we're talking about summer of 24. It was the first time I had to actually handle Willow. Prior to that, I knew she didn't like me. Like, she would growl when she would see me and stuff like that, and never had any interaction with her. Never bothered, because I was like, okay, you're fine with my staff, what have you, right? Until one day I actually had to handle her because my staff had called in sick, and then I was the only person who could fill in, and then she happened to be boarding here, and that's when she, I went to go grab her. She gave a very serious growl, low, very guttural. I went and grabbed a boat pole to help put on. It's got a hook pole essentially to slip her with the slip leash without having to kind of enter the kennel. And then she went after the pole. She had broken it in half. So then I had to go and then get my bite suit, and then I walked in with the bite suit. She was no problem. So then, from then until I think December of same year, because it's 25, right? So summer of 24, I had to handle her for the first time. Fast forward to December of 24, she starts having very active outbursts, very big outbursts, right? And I tried all sorts of things from that point until her recent boarding stay, June 6th, 25, where I went with correcting the behavior. I went as high as 127. She wouldn't stop. She wouldn't disengage. I went to ignoring the behavior. And applying food. So when I would walk by, I'd always toss treats, the Chewios or whatever, the Crunchios, right? I would throw them in her kennel every time I walked by, regardless of what she was doing, to no avail, just kind of staying the same. So then, that puts us to now, where, she was here for the 10 days, and it's like, okay, got to figure out what's going on here, right? Now, in the back of my mind, mind you, I always kind of knew where it was going. I always knew that she would most likely need a separate collar. But my concern was I didn't want to push a behavior and then have her escalate, and then my staff can't handle her. As long as my staff can handle her, I go, that's fine. If she has issues with me, it's fine, because I can figure it out, right? And then there was one time I think you had picked her up, and it was during a time when I was trying to address her prior to the recent stay, where I was with the client, and then Nate went to take her out because you were here to pick her up, and then she blew up, and then you had to come in to grab her, and that's the first and only time that's happened, at least with Nate. I don't know if in the past if it happened with other staff. I knew it took her time to warm up the staff in the past, but ultimately when she warmed up to him, she was completely fine. For whatever reason, with me, never fully warmed up with me. Actually, and then there's a part that we skipped because you did do training, and then after you were far enough in the training where I remember I had touched her with the sleeve, I came over, we did the in-home session, all that stuff. She was great with me for a period of time, so that was before that December 2024, right? Where I was able to handle her and all that stuff. Now, she was fine with me. She was neutral. I don't know that I ever saw her completely loose. And I don't think that I did. I think she was just kind of neutral and kind of like, okay, I guess I'll let you take me out or whatever. But I don't know that I ever saw her get completely loose. So fast forward to now. I got my notes here with me. So, you dropped her off June 6th. And that day, this was June 6th, so it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. All I focused on was taking Willow for a walk. No correction, so to speak. Like at least no harsh corrections, whatever. I did correct her for a couple of things, but they're like 35, 40. She took them really well. She stopped what she was doing. And they were tied to me. So like the first day I had Astrid set her up, e-collar, muzzle, everything. We're in the, and I'm gonna use security footage or whatever. You know, she goes and have her ready, and I'm in the activity room, and I go to approach her, and she gives me a little wolf, a growl. I think it was like a little wolf bark, right? So in Astrid's possession, when I go to approach her, she's already kind of giving me a distant tension. And then also notably, her tail is loose when like Astrid is messing with her and adjusting her muzzle and everything. You can see her tail just kind of moving and everything. And then I'm by my desk and I'm talking to Astrid, and you see me step towards Astrid and Willow, probably about a 10-foot, 12-foot distance, and then you see Willow kind of sit down and tuck her tail, right? So from that proximity, we already see her kind of get some tension. I'm pretty sure that's where the wolf was. And when I was going through the footage, I saw that, and I was like, okay, it's interesting, whatever, you know, just kind of flagging it. So that was the day, you know, and she was reactive to me when I would pass her by and stuff, like when she was in the kennel or whatever. So I go to walk her, I grab the leash from Astrid, go for a walk. Once I have her, not a problem. I also, at that time, did the footage where I did the touch footage, and you see just like all the contractions, right? All the tension. And that was very standard to Willow in the previous times that I interacted with her as well. When I would just touch her, you just see her kind of get really tense and just contract. So I did that video as educational content, what have you, right? Cover that. We go for a walk. We come back half an hour later. It's a hot day as well, so you know she's tired. And you see me, it's the same day, 30 minutes later after the walk, do the same touch exercise with her. And you see her tolerating it, but the tail is still tucked. She's still kind of wary of me. Hey guys, Jesse here with Canine Perspective, and I'm here with Willow. We just came back from a walk, and it's pretty toasty out, so she's panting fairly heavily. She's a dog that we know very well. She's been coming to us for a very long time. However, for whatever reason, she recently has started not liking me. So she's here for 10 days, and the owner would like me to kind of figure out what's going on. So I figured I'm gonna do something simple as opposed to training. I'm more geared towards building a relationship with her, which is why we went on a walk. But I figured this would be another great time to give an example of the touch and tension, like I did with Kodiak on his first day. So here we can see she's panting heavily. She's laying down because she wants to cool off. I'm gonna just do a quick rotation here just to get her to sit again. Come to a stop. I'm not gonna lay down. There she goes. So she goes, you see the panting again, okay? So now you can see, because she knows I'm moving towards her, the mouth closes, and then we get the mouth closed again, okay? Now, right now she's rock solid. There we go. We're getting the panting, which is good. So I'm gonna stop for a moment, let her brain decompress, and see if she'll do it again, okay? Panting, and then you see the lip lick, but she continues the panting, okay? Now I have another video from earlier that I'm gonna cut in where you see her kind of twitching very heavily all along the back here. Now I'm not seeing any twitching. Now one thing to note is that my touch at this moment is now being related to relaxed state, okay? So she's still panting. So you wanna think that when we're giving affection, you're reinforcing what's happening at the moment. If Willow, I'm gonna come down more, okay, so I try to crouch. She's not a fan of that. You can see the nervous movement. Good. Quick little mouth close. There it is. A little bit of a twitch there very quickly, but going back to the mouth opening. So I'm gonna go more on her level. Good. She's kind of side-eyeing me a little bit here. Not too bad. Right there. Good. But now my touch starts to be related to open mouth relaxation, which is what I want her to, you know, associate to me. I don't want negativity here. I go to the front right shoulder. There's a twitch there. There's more of a side eye. Go on the other side. Good. Go near the rear. Good, good. So before our walk, it was a lot of tension, but now that she's tired and with the heat and everything, just trying to cool off, just kind of taking advantage here and applying the touch now so she can start associating me with relaxation. Good, good. Just testing to see if there's anything she doesn't like. Nope, that wasn't so much tension as it was her just, how'd you say, I would like moistening her mouth, so to speak. Because sometimes dogs do that, they do the lip lick as a stress sign. That to me wasn't a stress sign, that was just her just, again, just kind of resetting her mouth, so to speak, for lack of better words. Go near the tail, nothing. Is the tail tucked? Looks like it's tucked, that's all right. But good. So in the before picture video, you'll see where she's kind of contracting and everything. Right now, when I first brought her in, she was closing her mouth, but now she seems to let that go, and now she's more in a relaxed state. But then again, this is something that we can look out for that tells us where a dog is emotionally, how they're feeling, whether they like something or they don't like something. In this case, whether they like somebody or not like somebody, to give you a nice little comparison. Here she lays down, she looks at me twice, kind of like checking in, are you gonna do anything? I could try here because the difference in position could make a difference, yeah. There we go. So there's a very quick contraction. Yeah, a little twitch there. Good, but letting it go. She's still not really liking that I'm in her space. She's just simply hot and tired, right? But you can tell, even after the walk and stuff, there's just still clear tension. So then, so Friday 6-6, she's reactive to me on approach. 6-7, which is Saturday, I believe I grabbed her from the playpen. I can't remember off the top of my head. There was low grumble, no tail wag. I don't recall. 6-8, there was no grumble with the tail wag. 6-9, which was Monday, there was no grumble with a slight tail wag, and then approached me willingly for the most part, right? Where I was able to grab her and then go, and you can see the clips for a couple of these days where you see me just go in and grab her, like it's a very just straightforward process. That's when I shot you the email. So I was like, oh, like, you know, things are looking good. And then Tuesday, I'm coming in, I bring my mom in, and she starts barking, okay, when we enter. Now, my mom does come in, so, you know, probably my mom too, but I'm gonna just say mostly to me. I don't think it was anything too bad, but you do see me in the footage when I'm coming through, like I look through the glass of the door, just kind of look at her, like, okay, you know, what's going on? Because, you know, we had seen progress, right? And again, those first 4 days, I did have to correct her. I know a couple times where after a walk, she was on place. I left to go do something, came back, and then she gave me like that wolf bark, and I tapped her like at a 35-40, and she took the correction, no problem, laid down and just chilled out, right? And the intensity was like super low. So then, you know, the Tuesday, 6:10, you know, I come to my mom, she starts barking. I'm like, all right, I come back in, I sit down, I'm getting some work done. Probably like 30 minutes, 45 minutes later, I get up and then she triggers, but very intensely. And you see as I'm walking through, you can tell when she blows up very intensely because my mom looks, and then Maria looks up too, but Maria's kind of used to it. So she just like looks back down again, whereas my mom's like, whoa, like what's going on? And you see me look, like when you see us just kind of all look at the same time, that's when she had a huge explosion, okay? So that's in my head where I'm like, all right, probably gonna have to do the dual collar corrections to start matching this intensity. So and then you see me later on get the collar set up and everything, but then I was heading out for the day, so I didn't really worry about it that day. Next day, Wednesday, 6:11, you see me, I enter the room, I'm coming in from transports, and you can see where she's kind of eyeing me, or she hears me coming through the kennel room because she's on place. And then when I enter, you see her just kind of, you know, sit up and start barking at me. And I go and I address her. I tap her. This time we have a single collar. I think I'm probably like 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s for this particular correction. And you see me move into her. And because we were able to find a muzzle that worked well, which is the Baskerville, I wasn't worried about her removing it. I'm able to continue to come in and put pressure on her, come into her physical space. I ultimately end up grabbing her and like petting her in the head or whatever, just making contact, really pushing her discomfort, really pushing the comfort zone, while also correcting her reactivity. We do see her pee. This is just all the stress or what have you kind of building up. She does piddle, and then you see me leave the activity room, okay? And then staff of course comes back and cleans up the piddle and all that stuff. So then 6/12, so it's Thursday, I commit to, okay, now I'm gonna do dual collar corrections, okay? So then I have her set up on my personal system. So it's one remote, two collars. Both collars go off at the same time at the same intensity. So I'm at 20, both collars are delivering 20. So I come into the kennel room and I had told staff to set her up with the dual collar, and then I forgot that her dual collar remote was my remote. So I enter the kennel room. She blows up. I go looking for her remote, which was actually my remote. Then I go back to the kennel room to grab her remote, only to realize, oh wait, she's on my system. So then I go back to the activity room and I grab my remote, but I don't get the initial explosion. But I start addressing her at 15 on the dual collars. 30. 35. 40. 45. 50. 55. 60. 'Kay, and I'm counting up from 15 to 20 to 25 to 30 to 35. I believe I made a note here. I believe I hit 60. Yeah, I hit 60, and then I also inadvertently step in when I tap red 60, and you just see her kind of just flush down like this, and then relax. You see me grab the leash. I start petting her. She piddles again, but at this point we have two collars going off at the same time. Okay. So then, 6/13, I do another kennel correction, and it caps out at 65. 65. 70. 80. And same thing, we see her piddle herself. But the important thing to note here is that she actually comes down to as passive as possible, okay? With these corrections, whereas before on a single collar, even at 127, even with 127, going down continuous, 127 continuous, starting 15, working my way up, resetting, going down to 15, working my way up again for 127 up until I hit 127 continuous. She would not let it go. She was relentless. You know, she was still going after the kennel gate because these things had happened in the kennel at the time. And I think one time I was like 10 to 15 minutes when I was like, all right, I'm gonna just get this done today. And she just completely overrode the collar. She wasn't caring about the 127 continuous corrections. And this is something I spoke to you that I attempted in the past. And I was like, all right, I'm not gonna do that anymore because it didn't work this time. So I don't wanna keep attempting it, keep building a lot of frustration, only to leave her still in a tense state of mind, because then my staff has to deal with it if I have to leave. So this time at the 65, you see her just kind of sit back and she like tucks her head and she's just like, okay, like that sucks, right? And it's a much quicker process because I just start out at 60, 65. As opposed to working from 15, because I had already did that the previous day on the placemat, right? Where I go 15, 20, 25, 30, all the way until I hit 60. So then the next day when she's in the kennel, I start at 60, but she wasn't letting it go. So I go to 65, and then she finally, for the most part, lets it go. She sits back, she chills out, okay? One thing to note on this particular day, and I have footage of this, when I bring her out, she comes out very loosely. She comes out very just kind of wiggly, okay? And this is just after the kennel correction. And this is where I take her into the activity room, and then I do another video in comparison going, oh, this is her a week later. Good girl. Good girl. Good. So exactly a week ago, we saw Willow very tense. We saw like the muscles contracting and all that stuff because of her discomfort. I tried a number of things, everything in the toolbox, and I'm going to continue doing everything in the toolbox because it could just be everything all at once. But now we're seeing a more relaxed dog. Good. More looseness. Good. Good. And now we see her wanting the touch. Because we have a history, I'm playing it safe, keeping myself, I'm not going overexcited or anything like that because that could trigger her. She's just getting used to me now, but we can see now when I touch her, not locking up and doing that twitching that she was doing before. Which is why we do have to press dogs, correct them if they act out. In Willow's case, I was doing a number of things. I was incorporating food with her training. I was taking her on walks, taking her on pack walks, doing socialization exercises with her, and trying to work around the kennel reactivity towards me. And I actually just ended up having to address it directly, finally getting her to disengage completely through e-collar pressure. And now it's allowing her to come to the other side. So we'll see how she progresses, but this is already a big difference from before. So it's hard to understand a lot of times how something that is so uncomfortable, so harsh, so to speak, can help the dog. And because of how humans think, dogs don't think like, oh, that hurts, that's a bad thing. When you teach the e-collar in a way the dog understands how it turns on, how it turns off, that they're technically in control of it, right? But the decisions that they make, which is something I spoke to you about when we first did the one-on-ones, where I was like, I don't know what her conditioning was. Conditioning has to be right if we're addressing behavior. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the place that you went to was like a franchise, and I've trained many of their dogs here in Chicago. The clients have come over, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, Ohio, it's like a dog training franchise, right? So I've had a lot of that particular franchise's dogs come to me for training here in Chicago, almost always behavioral training. So we had to make sure that all that was clear, right? So for whatever reason, regression, she decides again she hates me or doesn't like me. So in the back of my mind, you know, even when I did the 127 continuous corrections, I'm like, all right, this is probably going to be a dual collar correction dog. But because I know the power of her bite, I know the intensity of her behavior, my thing was always like, well, I don't want to create a problem that my staff can't handle. So finally, I'm like, all right, I have to commit. We're doing the dual collar corrections, whatever. Because now I'm going to be here. I'm here to board and train. I'm going to make sure that I'm available. If there's an issue, I'm going to handle it, right? So the issue was Willow's intensity. If we do not match or override the dog's intensity, we never make any progress, right? And every dog's, susceptibility to the e-collar is different, or how they receive it is different. Some dogs are just very tough against the e-collar. Other dogs are super sensitive to e-collar. It doesn't matter the size, doesn't matter the breed, doesn't matter the age. None of that stuff matters. What matters at the end of the day is the dog that I'm working with sensitive to the e-collar? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to get a lot done at a lower level. But when we get dogs that are very resilient to the e-collar, we end up at a higher level. And not uncommon that a dog, on average, most dogs on average land between 25 to 35. Okay, most dogs are within that range. And then if I'm dealing with the behavior case, they may be at that range, obedience-wise, but when it comes to the behavior, the number shoots up quite a bit, right? So with Willow, she had a very high level of intensity that I had to match to override, which is why I need that second collar. Some things that I take into account here are her breed. Pitties are known, or in my experience, I know them to often be able to take a lot of pressure. We do have to take into account their breeding line, right? They were bred to fight. They were bred to fight and then be loving to humans, because they didn't want a dog that was being aggressive towards them as they were bringing them into the fight ring. So they're meant to tolerate a lot of pain. Like they're, that bully breed, they're that power breed, build, and they can withstand a lot of pressure. So that's one factor. The other factor is the level of the intensity of her behavior. So all these things kind of add up to each other, right? So then if one collar doesn't get it done and we have a high helpful collar, then I go, okay, we get a second collar. Same thing, start low, work our way up until we find a number that actually gets the dog to shut the behavior down. Now, one thing to note, and I didn't get this on camera, is there were two other times that I had to correct her with the dual collar. Both of them, I believe, were in her kennel. And I had to go to 80. Okay, that's the highest I had to go with 2 collars was 80. And then, but what happened in these moments is not only did she stop what she was doing and become passive, but she started giving avoidance, where she's like, okay, I'm not a problem anymore, right? Where she would look away like this or turn around towards the back of the kennel. She never fully gave me her back, but she would be angled. So like if, she'd be like facing this way, but still looking at me from the side, kind of like this, right? So I had to go to 80. That's the highest I had to go with the dual collars. But finally, when I hit 80, she started to just give me full avoidance behavior, which is always what we're looking for. In the one in the kennel where I go to 65, she doesn't give me full avoidance. Okay. Now, one thing that I still haven't seen yet, that I just carry in the back of my mind, is even though she gave me avoidance, she never gave me open mouth relaxation within the moment. She never gave me, okay, I'm not a problem, and I'm going to let what just happened go. Okay. So, what that tells me is it's most likely going to be an ongoing thing. It's going to be steps forward, steps back. But now that I know what to do, now that I have, we have a muzzle here that works really well for her, and then I can work with no problem, is that if she ends up testing again the boundaries, I go, okay, I already know how to address this. Here we go. Is at some point she's going to start giving it to me. It just, I couldn't get it within that time frame, because I started the dual collar corrections on 6/12. I think we kept her a few more days, and then we had her on until Wednesday, if I remember correctly. And I only need to do the dual collar corrections 2 other times between 6/12 to 6/13. From 6/13 to 6/17, I still had to correct her, but it was much more straightforward. And I was able to correct her with a singular collar, and she was taking it and actually like calming down and stuff. Because once you override the initial intensity and the dog learns that turning off and relaxing is what gets the pressure to turn off, it starts allowing us to get there a bit more easily, okay? Which is why if a dog's reactive to me or reactive with me or when we're training, whatever, I want to always, as much as I can, work it through the very first time, because that sets the tone for everything else. So I had a dog, it was a blue heeler, a recent dog that we're training. It was a blue heeler, super reactive, and it took me 45 minutes to finally get him to stop being reactive, and I had to go as high as 95 in this particular case. 95, and I also had to incorporate the prong collar. And I had to step in because it was being too difficult for the client. So wait a second. Relax. Wait. I'm gonna have you lightly pull up. Because it's kind of hard to explain. There we go. May I see your leash? Thank you. You did a good job. Very good job. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is we have two problems. We got Brody and all this stuff, but we also have that he doesn't want the prong collar on. So this is all intentional. Okay. So we're at 55 here. I'm going to go up. Okay. I'm doing nothing here. He's actually causing the prong to go off because he's putting weight on the leash. Okay. Tip. That's why I took the leash. Okay, so then I had to step in, and it took me 45 minutes with a Black Edition collar at 95 and the prong collar before the dog finally started to de-escalate. Okay, so, but that was our first lesson where we really tried to push the behavior, and I was like, all right, today we're gonna commit to it, we're gonna just get it done. So even though it took me 45 minutes, we just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed until the dog caved. So then going forward for the owner, his number did remain higher for his dog, but shutting down the reactivity was like this. And that's the issue that I had with Willow, is that with the singular collar, I never got her to fully cut it out. She was always agitated, she was always tense, she had not come to full passivity. Whereas once we hit the dual collars, she started coming to full passiveness and neutrality, even giving the avoidance behavior, okay? So then once we get that done, things started becoming a lot more straightforward. Yes, there was moments of where she would bark at me, but she was taking the corrections, cutting the behavior, and then, you know, it was kind of feeling steps forward, steps back, but feeling continuously forward, okay? And then we hit, 6:17, where I was bringing her out because I did her training videos at the end because I was focused more so on the behavioral stuff and getting her walks in and all that stuff. So I did her training videos at the end for the obedience stuff, so then I could retroactively kind of talk about things. And then you see me, I grab her, she comes from the kennel, she's very loose, she wants to be with me. I bring her out, I bring her to the front, she's loose, you see me crouch down, she walks over to me, she's rubbing up against me, giving me a lot of affection, and you see me just kind of petting her and stuff. There's a point where her tail stops wagging, but it's not because of tension. I think it's more so because she was focused on rubbing on me. Because when she's not moving, you see her tail kind of wagging very loosely, okay? And when it came to obedience stuff, her number was super low, it was like 25, 30. It was just the reactivity towards me stuff that required the very high level of correction. So then lastly, we have, I think that was the day she left, June 18th, which was a Wednesday. And one of the beams is blocking her. But you see me approach her in the kennel room, and she stands up. You can't really see it because the beam is blocking her, but you can see her tail starts wagging when I approach her. Whereas before, whenever I would approach her, she'd always be like this, when she was in moments of tension. We did have those first, like I said, 4 days where she was progressively getting better, but then Tuesday, right, the next day after I emailed you, blew up. And the reason why that happened was, again, I was trying to work around not having to correct her so harshly. I was trying to focused just on building a relationship with her, going on walks where we're neutral and all that stuff. And I never even had to correct her on a walk. Like, she walked like a champ. But all the obedience stuff that we did at the end of the program where I did the long leash videos, you know, she was, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, like 25, 30, like super low when it came to obedience. It was just the behavioral stuff, right? So once I snapped the brain out of tension and suspicion, fear, nervousness, whatever it is she's got in her mind, it allows curiosity to come through. That's one of the things that I always tell my clients. I was like, if the dog is stuck in a state of suspicion or tension, we're never going to get to the other, we're never going to get over the hump where the dog comes to curiosity, and curiosity then leads to sociability, and then trust, and then things build off of that. So, and then do keep in mind, you know, it just wasn't harsh corrections. Like, I walked her every day except for the couple of days that I wasn't here. It was Father's Day, and then one Friday, I think I was like super busy, so I didn't have time to walk her. Every other day that she was here, we always got a walk in. So it's not just as simple as, oh, Jesse, you know, or you know, we just punish the crap out of a behavior. We have to be doing things that also facilitate, like, hey, like, I'm not a threat. Right? Like, positive things happen. We go for a walk and like nothing happens on the walk, you know? So it's a balance of matching the intensity, correcting the behavior with the appropriate correction, but then at the same time doing things with her that facilitate a relationship, that reinforce, like, I'm not anything or not anyone you should be scared of. Right? I'm just like everybody else here that's going to take you out, move you around, maybe even take you for a walk or whatever. So you do get a balance of that positive with the negative. And this is the hard part when we're trying to get, like, you know, if you're trying to get Willow to befriend a friend of yours or you know, maybe get a significant other, right? And that's why it's not just about the corrections, it's about coexistence. It's about going out and doing things, doing activities, right? Going for a walk with each other. If they feel comfortable them having Willow and going on a walk, you know, so like if you're walking with each other, you give them the leash, all that stuff, obviously, you know, muzzle, so they can feel more calm and relaxed, stuff like that. And it's just through coexistence and repetition that she should be able to then open up to them as well. There are always still boundaries. Like, I would never like go up to Willow and like go, hey, 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 and put my face in her face and give baby talk, because a lot of dogs don't like that. I'm positive she wouldn't like that. If I did that to her, you could probably do that to her because she's your dog. She has a lot of trust with you, right? So that's a mistake that people make, is they see this looseness, this behavior, and they go like, oh, I got your dog's trust, especially if the dog hated them. Oh, I got your dog's trust now. And then they go do something stupid like pick the dog up, or like, you know, put their face in their face, or like hug them while they're sleeping. I'm like, no, 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 no. There's still boundaries. Okay, there's still boundaries. The dog has accepted you, yes, but there's still boundaries, okay? So otherwise, you know, sorry if this turns out to be a long video and kind of the choppiness of it. Again, sometimes, you know, I'd come in and she'd be completely fine, and then at one point, like I said, on that Tuesday when I walked in, she just blew up. Or actually, when I got up from the desk, like, just blew up, right? So, but no, I'm very confident in the progress that we've made. I'm very confident, like, okay, I know what to do now going forward, which was what I always thought to do. It's just, again, I was hesitant because I didn't want to create a problem for my staff. Otherwise, that wraps up Willow's behavior part of her board and train video. I hope you took some valuable information from this and that it helps you going forward. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.